Alright, so I just got a chance to check out the Welcome to Derry first episode here. I think it's called The Pilot. So this is supposedly the first of 3 seasons that they are, planned for, at least at HBO here, to run with the kind of spin-off or prequel series of the movies. Of course, the ones with Tim Curry, the first ones, and then, the ones in 2017 and 2019, which I'm more familiar with. I've never actually seen both parts of the Tim Curry I think it was like a mini series, right, on TV, and of course it's based off Stephen King's novel, which I've not read, but I'm kind of familiar with it. The 2017 movie, to me, at least for me, is not being too much of a horror fan and not seeing that many of the classics of the genre. That to me is one of my favorite horror movies, of the last couple decades, right? Really, really loved that movie, and honestly, it really got me into horror. Obviously, I was watching The Walking Dead, a lot of the TV stuff I cover. I cover a lot of Walking Dead stuff here on the channel, so I was watching Walking Dead, and then that movie, to me, was really what kind of got me into things, and I have watched a lot of horror since then, after that movie. So, really a big fan of that, and of course, Andy Muschietti, the director of both those films, is directing this, which I did not know, actually. I knew he was a producer, I knew he was on board, but I kind of assumed that it would be like a lot of these other kind of arrangements that they've had lately for a lot of these spin-offs and IP projects, is where they'll bring the original director or writer or creator right back to the show, and they'll just kind of give a producer credit to them, and meanwhile, they don't actually have any involvement in the show. But in this first episode especially, I think you could tell, that Muschietti was very involved with this, and in fact directed the episode. And I guess that's where we'll start. This was a really, really great episode of television, first of all. But if you want to start, with the directing, just some really, really great work here. By Andy Muschietti, the cinematography as well, you want to give credit to. All the sets, right? The production design, we're in the 60s now, this is based in. So right away, you get that feeling, right? I thought there was a lot of kind of charm with that within the writing, and then also just all the sets, and even just the acting right off the bat when we're in the movie theater, and just, the way that, some guy is smoking right next to everybody, and you have some of the old people kind of looking back, giving looks to certain things going on, and, the couple that's making out in the theater and all this. So just a really great, and it's kind of like a tracking shot to open us up. Just a really great opening, really setting the actual setting and just the feel of the show and the 60s, vintage kind of feel to it right away, just instantly. And again, there's no dialogue, there's no exposition there. It's just a very easy way to do that, and a really great way. So really love that, and just the directing all the way through. I love the kind of a few callbacks to the recent movies, and I'm sure the miniseries too. Some of these moments, were in that as well. With the drain, right? Speaking through the drain a little bit, and the first opening sequence with Maddie, seeing him with the family in the car, was just such a roller coaster. And what a great sequence. Again, with directing, you want to talk about that. It's just the tension, kind of building that up and building it up. And it kind of leaves you wondering what's going on. Like, is this a normal family? But then once the girl kind of pulls out the box of liver and is trying to get, him to smell her fingers, at that point, you're like, okay, is this just a really weird family, right? And even at, like, the point where they're, like, chanting out and stuff like this, until, like, what happens, and I guess spoilers here, but, the baby comes out and that kind of thing, you're still kind of holding on to, like, okay, is this just a really weird family? Like, what's going on here? And then obviously what happens, but I love that. Love the tension there. And it's quite a bit of a long sequence, actually, but it works because you're still kind of, teetering on, like, okay, is this real? Is this happening? And that's what they did such a great job with the 2017 movie, and not so much the 2019 one, where It Chapter 2, which I definitely am very, ready to criticize for sure, and that it just felt very formulaic, and just every time they went into kind of one of those dream sequences that, it is really great at, and Andy Muschietti is great at in the first movie, you just knew exactly what was coming and you knew exactly what was happening. Whereas in a 2017 movie and in this, first episode, you don't know right away and you're really kind of thrown off. And even in the movie theater, when we're watching the movie, everything seems normal until we see Maddie there, and then things kind of kick off. So really great stuff. With all of that, the opening sequence, really great. I thought the comedy really worked here. A few of the moments I actually laughed out loud a little bit. Some of the lines were great, and that's just such, they really did such a good job with the writing in that in the 2017 version. And again, the 2019 version, not so great with that, but you also had, actors like Bill Hader, James McAvoy, was it Jessica Chastain, I think. So they elevated that material, I think, a little bit, but I just think the writing is just so much better here. I think it's Jason Fuchs who's writing this, and Brad Caleb Kane from Black Sails is also a co-showrunner, I guess, on this. So, maybe he'll write, later episodes, I think I read, but anyways, really great, the writing here. I think, a couple of the child actors were not, maybe as good as maybe what you would expect from a typical, adult actor. But I like the kind of the guy who's, into all the aliens and the conspiracy theories. I thought he was actually really good. I think he did a great job. Great performance there. So, the child, performances were okay, or I think even it kind of exceeded my expectations. The writing was good in that way. The only kind of maybe criticism or question I had in terms of kind of the writing and just the overall direction maybe of the episode is just the stuff with the military base, right? Or the air base. Now, obviously, and I did make this comment when I watched the trailer. I think I talked about it on the channel in one of my live shows. I did say, I'm like, okay, seeing the trailer and hearing about the show, and I've been following pretty closely, and hearing names like Taylor Page, Chris Chalk, some of the other adult actors, who are playing these characters, and I'm thinking, okay, isn't this, this is a story about the kids, right? Why are we don't necessarily have to have, actors of that caliber, of that notoriety. Obviously they're not huge, A-list actors, but they're very, very capable actors, who are, known and are really good. And so it just felt weird to me at the time of and even in the trailer, they're focused on a lot. So I knew that, or I guess I at least had a feeling that some of these adult characters would maybe be featured more prominently than what we were suspecting, at least compared to, It Chapter 1 in 2017 and the original miniseries first episode. So that is pretty clear by the end of this episode that we are going to be focusing more on the adult characters, alongside maybe the child, characters that are left at the end of this first episode, right? So definitely that is part of it, and that is why I'm kind of willing to, kind of maybe excuse some of the down times in this episode with the stuff on the airbase, because I think that's really developing and building something important for the character of I forget his name, Hanlon, right? Major Hanlon, which I think is the same name as Mike, right? In the It Chapter 1. I think that's his last name in that, but I could be wrong. But anyway, so I think there's some connection there. And so develop that character. I think it's actually going to pay dividends later on, in the series. So I think it was important, but at this point in time, it just was kind of taken away from the drama and the hard-hitting stuff that was happening with the children, and kind of, was a little frustrating to me. I'm like, no, let's get back to the kids. Let's get back to this. So, anyways, that would just be my, only criticism, but I think that'll be, answered very quickly here as we get, into more of the adult story. And then also that scene was interesting, when the three masked guys come in, and try to shake down the Major. And he's able to fight them off and that kind of thing. Again, okay, right? It was kind of okay. I wanted to see more of what would happen to the kids and all that stuff. So Anyways, that'd be my only criticism of this one, but so far, I mean, really, really impressive. I heard some things. I saw this like a day late, obviously, so I did hear some things, and yeah, I mean, this was really exceeded my expectations, honestly. Seeing Alien Earth, I felt very similar, to this point, seeing a couple episodes of that and the first episode of this, I felt very similar. So Alien Earth didn't quite go in the right direction after that point, which I still might do a review for the whole season here on the channel. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I did share my thoughts on the first 2 episodes here. But so I'm hoping that this one goes in the right direction after this premiere. And I do have full confidence in it. I really do. I think this is going to be pretty great. And also it was interesting to see kind of the early stages of it, right? I guess maybe Bill Skarsgård does something with the facial, reaction that we see like in a couple shots. But other than that, he's not really in this episode at all. We don't see that version of it yet, the clown. So that was also interesting. And I'm sure, even at the end of this episode, when the hand comes up on the seat, that hand looks a lot bigger than just the kind of baby with wings that was kind of flying around earlier. And so I have a feeling that by next episode, we'll probably be seeing Bill Skarsgård in that character, and it'll be a lot bigger. So anyways, I guess those are all my thoughts, kind of out of order, but those are kind of all my thoughts for this one. So like I said, very optimistic, really, really loved this first episode. But again, I did feel this way about Alien Earth, kind of the other big, prequel or kind of spin-off series of IP that has been done this year, just a month ago or so. And that one didn't quite turn out in the right direction. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't, terrible, but it didn't, it definitely went down after that, premiere. So we'll have to see. Definitely stay tuned for this one. I'm not sure if we'll be talking about this week to week on the channel, but definitely, I'll probably do a season review if I'm keeping up with the episodes and I finish them on time. But anyways, love to hear your guys' thoughts, of course, of this first episode of It Welcome to Derry. If you've also read the novel or you've seen the original miniseries and you know a little bit more, I'd love to hear you guys, your thoughts or the information that you have, some more insight to my kind of appreciation of the episode and some things that I missed for sure. So anyways, love to hear from you guys on that one for sure.